My adopted daughter didn't know what a birthday was, and it destroyed me. Right after I got married to my husband, we started trying for a family. We'd painted the nursery yellow because we wanted it to be a surprise. We'd picked out names, bought tiny clothes, read all the parenting books. But after 3 miscarriages and 2 failed IVF attempts, the doctor sat us down and said it wasn't going to happen naturally. The grief was suffocating, watching everyone around us have babies while we attended baby showers with forced smiles and went home to an empty nursery. After 2 years of that pain, my husband suggested adoption. I wasn't ready at first because it felt like admitting defeat, like giving up on the dream I'd held since childhood. But then I visited the foster care website one night and saw her photo. 7 years old with dark eyes that looked too old for her face and an expression that seemed to be bracing for disappointment. Her name was Iris, and the description said she'd been in the system since she was 3. Something about her photo wouldn't leave my mind for days. I showed my husband and he felt it too. That inexplicable pull toward this child we'd never met. We filled out the application and went through months of home studies, background checks, parenting classes, and interviews. The social worker assigned to Iris's case was named Diane Murphy, and she was honest about the situation in a way that scared me. She said Iris had been removed from her biological mother's care after neighbors reported seeing a small child left alone in an apartment for days at a time. The mother had severe addiction issues and would disappear for weeks, leaving Iris to fend for herself. When they found her, she was 4 years old, malnourished, and had been eating toothpaste because there was no food in the apartment. She'd been in 3 different foster homes since then, each placement failing for various reasons that Diane delicately called behavioral challenges. I asked what that meant, and Diane said Iris hoarded food, had severe trust issues, and would sometimes hurt herself when she got overwhelmed. The description should have scared us away, but instead it made me more determined. This little girl needed someone who wouldn't give up on her like everyone else had. We met Iris for the first time at a park on a Saturday morning in October. She sat on a bench next to Diane, wearing jeans that were too short and a jacket that didn't fit properly. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wouldn't make eye contact when we said hello. My husband brought a soccer ball, thinking maybe she'd want to play, but she just stared at it like she didn't understand what it was for. We sat on the bench with her for an hour, trying to make conversation while she gave one-word answers and kept her arms wrapped tight around herself. When it was time to leave, Diane asked if she wanted to see us again, and Iris shrugged. On the drive home, I cried because the visit felt like a failure, but my husband pointed out she hadn't asked to leave early, which Diane said was actually progress. We had supervised visits twice a week for the next 2 months. Slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice it happening, Iris started to relax around us. She'd answer questions with full sentences instead of just shrugs. She laughed once at something my husband said, then immediately looked scared like she'd done something wrong. We brought her to our house for a day visit, and she walked through every room like she was in a museum, barely touching anything, asking permission before she sat on the furniture. I made lunch, and she ate everything on her plate so fast I worried she'd choke, then asked in a whisper if there was more. I said of course and gave her seconds and thirds, watching her put away more food than seemed possible for someone her size. My husband caught my eye across the table, and I saw the same heartbreak I felt reflected in his face. After lunch, she asked where the bathroom was and disappeared for 20 minutes. When she came out, I noticed the hand soap was half empty. Diane explained later that hoarding and overconsumption were common in kids who'd experienced severe neglect. Iris's brain was still operating from a place of scarcity, believing she had to take everything now because there might not be anything later. The official adoption went through in February, 6 months after we first saw her photo. The judge asked Iris if she wanted to be part of our family, and she nodded once, still not making eye contact with anyone. We took her home that day with 2 garbage bags of belongings that represented everything she owned in the world. One bag had clothes that mostly didn't fit. The other had a broken toy phone, 3 rocks she'd apparently collected, and a blanket so worn it was barely holding together. My husband carried the bags to her new room while I helped her out of the car. She stood in our driveway looking at the house like she was waiting for someone to tell her it was a joke. I took her hand, and it was so small and cold in mine. Her room had been decorated carefully, not the nursery we'd painted years ago, but a space we designed specifically for her. Purple walls because Diane said that was her favorite color. A bed with a thick comforter and more pillows than necessary. A bookshelf with new books still in their wrappers. A desk for homework. Stuffed animals arranged on the bed. When Iris saw it, she stopped in the doorway and didn't move. I asked if she liked it, and she whispered, "This is all mine?" I said yes. Everything in this room belongs to you, and no one will take it away. She walked over to the bed and touched the comforter with just her fingertips, like it might disappear. Then she asked something I had never expected. The rest of the story is linked below or on my channel.